Hello again. I'm making a bunch of videos all in one day, but the weather's so nice, I kind of like to do it that way, and then I can focus on my work better. So I wanted to show you this. This is I don't know what kind of tree this is, but you can just set that down, honey, on the ledge and I'll get it. You set it there. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So the Japanese, when they grow their cedars, they don't let them grow all the way out. Well, they let them grow as big as they want, but then they cut the big limbs off, or the tops of the trunks off, and they use that to grow their cedar wood. And they've been doing that for hundreds of years, as I understand it. And they preserve their cedar forest that way and keep it healthy. So I do the same thing with volunteer trees that grow up in my yard. I don't know what kind that tree is, but I don't particularly want a big giant tree growing right next to the road. And those trees do grow giant if you let them. Not only that, but there's an electrical wire growing over the top of it, and I don't want it growing into that. But if you want, I use it for wood chips. I let the branches grow about an inch thick, and then I chop them off and put them in my chipper. But I also wanted some logs, and I cut off I had that maple tree, I cut it off with a chainsaw and chopped it up and used the logs for my planters to help fill them in with something more permanent that would last a long time, so I wouldn't have to use as many leaves in topsoil, and to help prune that tree, because again, it was blocking the dump trucks from coming in with the compost for me. And so I made room for them, and plus it was blocking my internet signal a little bit, so that made sense to me. And I'm going to have to thin out some of these, like this big sycamore behind me. Some of those branches have fallen and almost hit my car. So there's a big one right there that I still have yet to chop up into smaller pieces for my compost. So to protect my car, at some point I will need to go and thin out some of these, especially some of the sketchier looking ones that look kind of weak. But I just wanted to mention some of these tips if you're wanting to make wood chips or help fill up your compost bins and make them last longer without having to turn them over all the time. You put some chunks of wood in there, it'll help and make it decompose a lot slower, but it still helps keep the soil rich with nutrients as it decomposes, and moisture. What else? Oh, the yard is constantly in transition too. That's another important thing. So just because you plant something someplace doesn't mean it has to stay there forever. So for example, down here I planted lilies, yellow lilies. My wife likes lilies, and she likes yellow. So I planted them here behind the wall, and then I planted these trumpet vines. Now trumpet vines, I only planted one, and as you can see, it's taken over the whole wall. And the reason I did that is because the ditch was gravel, and I had it was very unsightly. It was growing a lot of weeds. It still does grow some. So it was causing me a headache. I didn't like the way it looked. It was not good for the curb appeal. Neither is that dock across the street for the school. I don't particularly care for that. It's not what you want to see looking out your picture window. So I started landscaping the front ditch here, and I planted some cherry trees in front of the picture window, some dwarf cherry trees in the front yard to kind of block that view. And the trumpet vines did an excellent job of taking over this front wall, but my wife doesn't like it because it's scraggly looking, and it covers up my pretty wall, which I spent a lot of money on and built myself. So she wants me to rip out the trumpet vines, which, I wasn't too gung-ho about, but I can see what she's saying. And I'll use that for my composting bins. And then she wants me to mulch it real well and plant in tulips and daffodils and lilies and all kinds of flowers. She wants this to be one big flower bed for the front yard, which that'll be nice curb appeal. The trick of that is putting in perennial flowers that will come back every year, but will bloom all summer long, spring and summer and into fall, so that something's always blooming. And that's going to take a little bit more planning. But this project is kind of a big project, so it's going to take me a while to do all that. And to kill the trumpet vines, I'm going to have to keep them cut back. To do that, I'm basically going to try to deny them sunlight. So once I chop them out, I'll just cut them off at the ground. I will put down cardboard and layer on the wood chips on top of that, about 6-8 inches thick. And I will just, anything that comes up next spring, I will immediately chop it off. And I'll have to do that all summer long and until they stop coming up, and then it'll be gone. And then to plant the flowers, instead of digging down to the soil and giving the trumpet vines a place to come up, what I'll do is I'll hollow out a point there from where the wood chips are, and I'll put in topsoil or potting soil, and I'll plant the flowers in that on top of the mulch. And I'll make sure I've got plenty of that compost in there to protect it from, leaching out all the nitrogen. And they should do fine. Eventually they'll take over as everything breaks down. It'll be all right. It should be. I've done it before in different spots. I already have some lilies growing here, some daffodils and tulips that are now gone. They're underground. And they come back every year. But I'm going to have to expand it quite a bit, and it's going to be a lot of work to get these trumpet vines out. In the front of the ditch where I still have weeds and gravel, I put some big rocks here because people kept parking on it. And I've got a drainage pipe underneath here for the ditch to make sure that the drainage isn't affected. I'm going to do the same thing, wood chips and compost and flowers, and I'm going to leave the decorative big boulders in there to keep people from driving on top of it, because they don't typically respect your property very much. I've got no parking signs, but they do it anyway. So the boulders keep them out pretty effectively. So the point of all of that was just to tell you that you're going to have to move stuff. So those lilies down there, they got overgrown by the trumpet vine, and I could move them, but since I'm tearing out the trumpet vine, I'm going to leave them. They'll be fine. But you may, if I wasn't tearing out the trumpet vines, I would dig them up and move them to a sunnier spot. The same thing happened on this hillside over here, where I landscaped the hill so I wouldn't have to mow it. So there's some lessons for you. I hope this stuff helps and isn't too annoying. My daughters kind of get annoyed with me because I'm a walking encyclopedia, and I don't always, I'm kind of dry, my sense of humor. So, all right, well, we're all different. God bless. Pray for me, a sinner. Over and out.